I'm excited. I've been practicing this for months. The fact we've been talking to Sir Bill Beaumont, hoping for him to get on the show. And tonight we have that night. And Sir Bill, thank you so much for joining us. I understand you're in Spain at the moment. How are you and how are things over there?
Well, things are, everybody's locked down again, I think, here. Everybody's wearing face masks, and the UK government have just issued a directive that anybody in Spain has to quarantine for 14 days when we get back home. So I've only been here 48 hours, so looks as though I'm going to be back in lockdown when I get home again.
We've been through that. We've experienced that here in New Zealand. We're fortunate enough we get the opportunity to continue to play rugby now. For you, I'm sure things don't stop. Where are we right now in terms of World Rugby, in terms of establishing this much talked about global calendar?
Well, thanks very much for that question, Jeff. That I think that certainly, I feel that by World Rugby will be voting, the World Rugby Council will be voting on UK time on Thursday, just to confirm the movement of the windows from the normal November window, which is 3 weeks, and to move that into October, November, and early December. So it means that sort of Super Rugby, hopefully that they can get their tournament going, sort of with South Africa, Argentina, Australia, and yourselves. And it means that the Six Nations can be concluded, and that then they're having another competition, which you mentioned earlier in the programme, where they've invited both Fiji and Japan into that competition. I'm not privy to the details of that competition, because obviously that's a Six Nations matter, and I'm not involved in the Six Nations.
So Bill, I want to ask, how much of an influence do the Northern Hemisphere clubs have on that decision?
I think they were obviously concerned, and I think they still are concerned, that they could well be losing players. But I think by collaborating with them, because the English season, for instance, will hopefully kick off in August, on the 15th of August. The French season will start on the 1st of September. And normally they will be missing a lot of players at the start of September, because they'd be playing in the Rugby Championship anyway. So look, World Rugby have made the decision that it is right for the global game. You know, that we have to, we've got to get international rugby up and running, because at the end of the day, that is what funds the game. That funds the game, whether it's the provincial game in New Zealand, whether the provincial game in England. You know, international rugby funds that for every little rugby club on the planet.
Bill, 4 years ago, you know, you had the support of the Southern Hemisphere in the voting. This year that didn't happen. I mean, is there discord? Is there going to be repercussions? I mean, are we heading together in the right direction?
I think we are, JK. Look, there was a contested election between Gus and myself that was sort of, I've got nothing but respect for Gus. I think what we found is that certainly since the election, that everybody said, right, that's been and gone now. Let's get on with running the game. And certainly I've been in dialogue with all my old partners globally, with Brent Impney, and certainly Mark Robinson, and the new Australian chairman, that certainly Hamish McLennan, that we've been in constant sort of dialogue, sort of over various things. And I think that what we have at the moment is that we are looking to get 2019 done and dusted. We're going to have to muddle our way through it in a way, but the best we can. And then we're going to all sit down, and that would include the clubs as well, all the stakeholders, and say, right, what is the best international calendar that suits everybody? And I do feel, JK, that there is a real spirit of collaboration amongst countries now to make certain, you know, is it right at the moment? At the moment, we have November in the Northern Hemisphere, which works pretty well for the North. But it's on the back end of a long season for the guys in the South. And then you've got the North coming down in July. Now, is that right? Now, is it right to put both of them together? Who knows? But it's only by sitting down together and having dialogue that I get the feeling that there is no real split between the North and South. Everybody wants to do what's best, obviously, for themselves, but for the global game.
So, Bill, you're right about that. There is a real big spirit about getting the game together and all the nations coming together. The voting system, though, it's not very democratic, is it? I mean, when can we see that change so the likes of the Pacific Islands can have equal vote? Perhaps, you know, two as well, or everyone just gets one vote. When can we see that change?
Well, part of my manifesto was that there was going to be a complete review of the governance, and that is taking place at the moment. Obviously, as chairman, I'm not involved in that, but it's certainly every union has the right to write in to Sir Hugh Robertson, who's an independent chairman of that group, and obviously then they will then make their recommendations. But if you think under the previous 4 years that I was there, Miles, that we had extra votes, we had Fiji, Samoa who came onto the council, Japan got extra votes, Argentina got extra votes. You know, there is the opportunity now for countries to actually get a seat at the table, and they can get extra votes. But I'm not prejudging what will happen in the governance review, and so let's look forward and see what that has to say. What has to say there.
What would your decision be, Bill? What would your personal decision be?
My personal decision is that you have to ensure that they feel that the Pacific Islands are sat at the table, which they are at the moment, with the exception of Tonga. And I think you have a situation now where it is voting where some countries have one vote, other countries have two votes, other countries have 3 or 4 votes. And that is on a weighted voting system. And that is something that was decided in Tokyo, I think 2 years ago. And we haven't really seen, obviously with the coronavirus, what we've seen is that certainly that our concentration has been on, I've let the governments go, you know, that is being run independently. What I've had to concentrate on is trying to pull everybody together around this dreadful pandemic that we've got.
So, Bill, there's no doubt that Rugby World Cups in recent times have been hugely successful, particularly the last one in Japan, and I am sure you guys are dealing with a lot of challenges financially. How do you distribute those, I suppose, profits from that between Rugby World Cups, and where does that focus go?
Well, the focus goes, Jeff, is that we distribute every penny that we have. You know, World Rugby, we don't sit on a huge stockpile of money. We're not like other international sporting organisations that have massive cash reserves. We don't have the cash reserves, that we have enough to keep us going. And actually, it's a good job that we did. If we'd had the Rugby World Cup had been postponed this year, then it would have placed us in a far more difficult position that we're in at the moment. What we're able to do at the moment is to help those countries that are in dire need. There are many countries there, but rest assured that World Rugby doesn't hoard the money, and there is a system in place where countries, they get funding for whether they've got their youth program, whether they've got a women's program, whether they've got a 7th program, what their 15 program's all about, then that is how the money is allocated.
So, Bill, we know World Rugby funded Argentina into the Rugby Championship. Can we expect something similar for the likes of Japan, Fiji, or perhaps even a Super Rugby side in New Zealand, or I mean, in the Southern Hemisphere?
Well, I think we should do, without a doubt. I think what I found actually quite interesting in watching your programme is that, and reading in the press, that certainly there seems to be a huge enthusiasm south of the equator. So certainly it's a team that they're talking about in Hawaii to play in the Major League Rugby Pacific Island team there. I've heard that Pacific Islands, Fiji could well be invited, or Japan into Super Rugby. These are decisions that need to be taken, I think, because we are in a position at the moment where players and teams have been travelling the globe, and I don't think this will return in the near future. So what we have to do is be creative and working together with our partners. Because World Rugby, we work in collaboration with all our stakeholders, and you're quite right that certainly Rugby did fund Argentina to join the Super Rugby competition. Although, yeah, Super Rugby, isn't it?
Bill, I was at the World Cup and I saw the World Rugby Committee, and I was thinking how Rugby's been professional for 26 years, but it didn't look like there was a lot of diversity on our World Rugby board. Are you looking to make some changes around diversity actually within the inner sanctum of the World Rugby?
Well, John, certainly in my time as chairman, that we've seen a 30% increase in women on the World Rugby Council. You know, I've just been looking through all our committee structure. We've got, I think, far better representation. It's not right at the moment, but certainly far better representation across all genders than we had 4 years ago. And so, you know, this is something that again will be looked at in the governance review, which obviously I'm not privy to because it's an independent chairman there.
So, Bill, how critical do you believe the next 12 to 18 months are for World Rugby in terms of establishing the future of our game?
Well, World Rugby, I think, vitally important, Jeff, that I think what we have to do, that we have to work in collaboration with all our stakeholders. So it's not for us to say how New Zealand rugby internally, can I just say how much I've enjoyed the Super Rugby. I think it's been absolutely unbelievable. And I think the game last Saturday in Christchurch between the Crusaders and the Hurricanes was one of the best games of rugby I've seen. It absolutely had everything in it, and it was as near to as good as some better than a lot of Test matches that I've watched. So certainly, what we will be trying to do is work collaboratively. Let's try and get a structured season. Let's try and get a calendar that the clubs, for instance, that they feel that they're not being ignored and that they're not losing players to the international rugby, but respect that players have to be released under Regulation 9 for international rugby, and look at trying to get a real structured season, but also looking at the finances of the game. You know, I think the finances, what tends to have happened since the game went pro, is that the income and expenditure have risen at exactly the same levels. And I think this pandemic, the one thing it is a reality check to the finances of World Rugby, whether it's in the domestic leagues in Europe or whether it's the amount of money that players get paid.
So, Bill, thank you so much. It's taken us a while, but we're extremely grateful that you've joined us on The Breakdown tonight. And especially if you are on holiday in Spain, please stay safe, take care, and we look forward to catching up with you at some point in the future. Thank you very much and good luck.
Absolutely. Can I just say one point also? Can I just pass on my best wishes to Brent Ibney? I know he's undergoing treatment at the moment, and also to Andy Hayden, who was one of the great New Zealand second rows that I played 5 tests against him, and I'm sorry to hear that he's not so good at the moment. So best wishes to them.
Thanks, Sir Bill. Thank you.